Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our full council today, Thursday, the 26th of March. Before I go into the agenda, I would just like to mention the sad news that David Grottick passed away yesterday, Councillor Fran Grottick's husband, and I know that you will all want me to pass on our sincere condolences and best wishes to Fran and her family. Thank you. Item 1 on our agenda are declarations of interest. Do I have any, please? No, thank you. Item 2, minutes of previous meetings held on both the 26th of January and the 10th of March. Are there any issues or corrections needed around those minutes, please? No, then could I have a proposer? Councillor Mumford, seconded. Councillor Nixon. All those in favour of their adoption? That's carried. Thank you very much. 3 is Chairman's announcements. I have none. Item 4, consideration of any questions received under Standing Order 14. I have none. Item 5, consideration of any motions received in accordance with Standing Order 12. I have none. Item 6, to receive draft minutes from committees for information only. And item 7, urgent items. I have none. We're going to move into part 1 now, but in view of the fact that Councillor Marcus has to be late this morning, we are going to leave the planning for a moment, and we will start with item 11 on our agenda, which is our pay policy statement in the hands of Tina. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you, Chairman. The Council's pay policy statement for 2026-27 is presented, which full council are required to approve and publish annually under the Localism Act 2011. This statement sets out the council's approach to pay and summarises the national and local arrangements that govern the pay structure. For example, National Joint Council pay spines, other nationally negotiated pay frameworks, such as those for local authority fire and rescue employees, and also locally agreed provisions where national arrangements do not apply. This year's statement retains the same format as previous years. Further updates are awaited for the 2026-27 pay award once national pay negotiations conclude. Opportunity has also been taken to clarify and update Chief Officer definitions with regard to guidance under Section 40 of the Localism Act. Failure to approve a pay policy would be a breach of statutory duty, and therefore the recommendation is that members approve the pay policy statement for the period 2026-2027. I've also had a query received ahead of this meeting from Councillor Marcus around to describe the performance-related pay scheme in operation for strategic directors. So before I open up for further questions, I'll address that query.
Thank you.
So the performance-related pay scheme for strategic directors was introduced in 2021-2022 pay policy, following from an internal capacity review of chief officers and the reduction in numbers following receipt of Local Government Association guidance. The scheme operates a 3-point scale, which was introduced for assessment of performance against agreed objectives at annual appraisal for the strategic director roles. The scheme also operates in conjunction with market forces and a tight labour market in terms of recent appointments. Thank you, and I'll open up for further questions.
Thank you, Tina. Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Tina, for the report. Standing Order 6.1 stipulates reports should be published 5 days prior to full council, but there has only been a little over 48 hours to read and research this report. This is an annual paper which has not come before some councillors previously. It covers a large topic with references to information published on the council website and is not redlined to show amendments from previous policy. Is it possible to postpone this paper for full and proper consideration and consultation, please?
Monitoring Officer Leah, would you like to take that? Thank you.
Hi. In terms of reports being available for meetings, so we always try to aim for the 5 clear days. Where that is not possible, it is not contrary to the legislation to issue a late report, which this is. That's been due in part because we've recently had a crossover of HR managers. Obviously, Tina's been on maternity leave. Natalie was covering for Tina, and this was one of the first things that Tina had to pick up on her return. We were also making sure it was compliant with all the statutory guidance. It is something that comes before members every year. I appreciate that it will be the first one that new members have seen who were voted in the May elections. But it is something that has to be approved by full council before the commencement of the financial year. So if members were minded to postpone it, there would be a risk attached to that because it wouldn't be in accordance with legislation.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Nixon, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Tina, and welcome back. I've just got one question, please. Just on the page 23 of the report, monitoring of the policy and costs of the travel accommodation will occur on a regular basis. Have we put in place how that monitoring will take place and how regular that will be?
Thank you for the question. I will pick this one up separately with the Chief Executive and Section 151 in terms of what has been discussed and agreed, and ensure that a note is circulated to members. Having not been previously involved in the formulation of this section of the policy, I would want to take advice outside of the meeting and obviously with our finance colleagues in terms of reporting, but I can report back.
Thank you. And unless any other colleagues got any comments they'd like to make, I'd like to propose a recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Executive.
Yeah, I will just come in on that point Councillor Nixon made. And yes, I'll allow Tina to come back to you direct, but just to say the process has been put in place. The finance team put in the appropriate coding and that was needed to ensure that those costs are monitored, and it will be coming back as an annual report. But the process has been implemented, and you know, the ordering of the travelling and the way it's coded, it's been done such that we can identify the costs very clearly to report back.
Thank you. Councillor Legg, please.
Thank you, Chair. On page 10 of the report, the pay multiple for the lowest paid employees is listed as 4.9 in the table. And then in the bottom paragraph, you mentioned the current ratio of highest to lowest paid employees is well within the guidelines and is 7.11. I was just wondering about this difference.
Apologies, Councillor Legg. I think this has been an oversight in terms of version history from a previous one that I picked up that went to September's full council. So I will get that reviewed and amended and can circulate. Also, I will have another look at that one. But yeah, apologies if it's a typo. Yeah,
and just out of curiosity, if when you circulate that, could you include what the guidelines are for the sort of the minimum pay multiple? Thank you. I will second the recommendation.
Thank you. So we have a proposer and seconder for the recommendation. All those in favour, please. Do we have any abstentions? Councillor Blackwell. Any against? That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the report, Tina. Item 12 on our agenda is our statement of licensing policy in the hands of Andy Thomas. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So every licensing authority must operate under a statement of licensing policy, and that policy lasts for 5 years, and in this report you are to consider our draft policy for 2026 to 2031. There's a growing need to agree a new policy, so we have chosen to bring the report to Council rather than to convene the licensing committee, which unfortunately was in quort and unable to sit on March 13th. Much of the policy is actually quite unremarkable and fairly standardised across all authorities, but where each authority differs is around their cumulative impact assessments. That's a bit of a mouthful, so I'm going to call them CIAs from now on. CIAs are areas within towns and cities where evidence has been established that an intervention is needed to counter the negative impact of a significant number of licensed premises concentrated in one area. And this council made a decision in July 2005 to establish a CIA to cover most of Hewtown, from the Garrison to Carn Thomas, but it didn't actually include the Garrison. It began at the Garrison and goes to Carn Thomas. You'll see in the document. This creates, well, the CIA creates a rebuttable presumption within that area that every application to extend or grant a premises license is likely to be detrimental to Hewtown in terms of nuisance and disorder, and that each applicant has a duty to prove their application would not. The police and environmental health officers have the power to not support any licensing application. We call this a representation, and their concerns can force an application to be taken to a licensing hearing where councillors determine the outcome as opposed to the officer. This process happens regardless of the existence or not of a CIA. It's difficult to provide evidence or proof that something will cause no harm because there is no evidence of something that hasn't yet happened. So the closest approximation when dealing with applications within Hewtown is to ask the police or environmental health if they think the conditions of the application are such that the danger of the harm is mitigated to enough of a degree. We still have a lawful duty to accept and process applications within Hewtown, even though we have the CIA. We can't simply refuse anyone their right to apply. You are today being asked if you believe that there is reasonable cause for the continuation of the CIA, and then to consider approval of the licensing policy as a whole to cover the Isles of Scilly from this point forward to 2031. The report is quite comprehensive, but if you have any questions on this, then we are fortunate today to be joined by Mark Andrews, Senior Lawyer at Cornwall Council's Legal Department, who specialises in licensing, and obviously our Monitoring Officer, who's now become well versed on this subject now. So please do use the legal experts we have here to guide you through this process.
Thank you very much, Andy. Councillor Dean, please.
Yeah, first of all, apologies for the licensing committee meeting that had to be abandoned because we were not quorate, so that's why the paper's here. So that's the first recommendation, is that we allow that to be, discussed here as opposed to in the licensing committee. Andy's pretty much said it all. In my mind, the question is whether so the professional people have said that there is no evidence for the CIA. However, when we did the public consultation, some of the results of that suggest that we should have a CIA. Now, it's a little bit difficult because some of the comments that are in the consultation aren't really applicable to the concept of a CIA. So it's a bit tricky, and I'm also very conscious of the fact that we ask the public to consult. We consult with the public on an awful lot of things, and the public perception seems to be that we consult and then we take no notice of what they say. So I'm kind of suggesting that we do that again, because I think the professional opinion is that there is no evidence, and there is no evidence, no serious evidence, only kind of anecdotal. But I'm conscious that we should also take serious note of the public consultation. So in my mind, I don't think we need a CIA, so I would propose that the policy is amended as such, but it's obviously up to members to discuss. So that's my view.
Thank you. Councillor Nixon, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just on the basis of what Tim said, just for a bit of clarity for any members of the public who are listening into the meeting. I've just got a few questions around the CIA. I've got 4 of them, I'm afraid, but I'll do them one by one for you. So the first one is, do we have more or less licensed premises in the CIA than we had when it was originally included in the 2020 to 2025 licensing policy?
I actually wouldn't know off the top of my head, actually. I'd have to look that up. Be very similar if there was any difference.
Okay, my second one is, does having a CIA in the policy change the process for a licensing application?
The application still has to be received in the same way, and it still has to be considered in the same way, albeit there is that added expectation that the applicant has to prove that their application can't or won't or is unlikely to cause harm. So it is basically the same. I don't know if Mark wants to just confirm that, just so everyone's confident.
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, so the process would be the same. So they'd still have to go through the process of applying for the license or applying for the variation to the license. If there were representations, then it would come before your committee or subcommittee of your committee. But if there were no representation, so if the police, environmental health, members of the public didn't raise representations against the application, then it would be granted in the same way as any other application. So there wouldn't be like a separate measure, that a hurdle that the applicant had to jump over. It would only become relevant to you guys if there was a representation raised. If that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
But sorry, just to add to that, but if there was a representation raised that referred to the CIZ and raised issues about adding to the cumulative impact, then that would almost carry more weight, because the reverse burden or the rebuttable presumption would then be that the application would be refused. But you'd still need evidence to refuse it. So it doesn't take that away. You can't just say it's in a CIZ, so it shouldn't be granted. You still have to provide evidence, and you'd still have to consider that evidence when you hear the application.
Councillor Nixon, could I just add, so all members are aware in terms of the cumulative impact area that you have for Hughtown currently in the policy. I just think it's probably useful for members to know what basically is a CIA. So basically, it's where it's been deemed that an impact of a concentration of licensed premises in the area is having a serious detrimental impact on the licensing objectives set out in your licensing policy statement. And those objectives are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, and protection of children from harm. So I think it's also important for members to keep that in mind, what a CIA actually is and what it is there, what the objective of a CIA is as well. So I just thought I'd add that.
Thank you. You've actually answered my third question amongst that between the two of you. So my last question, and this is based purely on comments by the public. Does having a CIA in the policy have any impact on how complaints about noise or antisocial behaviour should be dealt with by either the council or the police?
I would say no. It doesn't make it more onerous, or it doesn't make it less onerous. However, I suppose if one was to review, so if the police or environmental health or a member of the public wanted to call for the review of a licence because of issues with crime and disorder, public nuisance, public safety, protection of children from harm, so one of the licensing objectives, if like I say, one of the what they're called responsible authorities, so the police, environmental health, or other statutory bodies, or a member of the public wanted to call for a review, then obviously they could refer to the fact that it was in the cumulative impact zone or cumulative impact area, and that may add more weight to their review, but it would be a matter for members to consider that at the time of the hearing based on the evidence. You know, it's a bit of a lawyer's answer, but you have to obviously look at each application on its own merits. You can't have an overarching thing, but it wouldn't affect the day-to-day enforcement against the premises. Once they've got that license, they're bound by all the rules and procedures and everything else that go with that license, the same as anyone else.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roger, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The 4 points that Lisa's just mentioned, as there is absolutely no evidence, documented evidence, of any of those 4 being in place, i.e. there aren't evidences that any of those 4 issues occur over here on a regular or reported basis. The negative economic impact of the potential of additional restrictions for licensed premises and concentration of licensed premises, we have the absolute opposite problem here at the moment, that we actually need more licensed premises to facilitate and manage and deliver expectation to our visitor economy. So those 2 things in my mind would allow me, or would steer me to support Councillor Dean's recommendation that the CIA is not required within our licensing policy going forward.
Thank you. Councillor Sims, please.
I'd echo Councillor Rogers' comments. I think the problem we have here with noise is we basically haven't got enough. So we have such a low ambient noise level that anything, very small amounts of noise, cause an issue for people, and they think, oh, what's going on here? Whereas if it was somewhere else, it wouldn't be noticed. It'd just be buried in the, if you like, in the background. So, and I just don't, and Tim's mentioned evidence, I think Ewan's mentioned evidence. We just haven't got any evidence to justify something like this. I know that lots of people out there think that the place is insane. It's like, you know, it's like some sort of freeway in Los Angeles in the middle of summer. It's just not. It's very, very quiet, and that's what makes it seem loud, if you get the apparent contradiction in that. So, okay, so I would very much against the CIA, both here and in America.
Thank you. Councillor White, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a comment really on the the difference between the feedback from the relevant bodies and the feedback from the public. And I think one of the issues, and one of the reasons perhaps we don't have much documented evidence of disturbance, is every season I see people complaining about disturbance on social media, but not necessarily reporting it to the relevant channels. So perhaps to encourage people, if they're watching, listening, to, if you've got a complaint, make it to the relevant authority rather than just posting about it on social media, because if they don't come to us, we're not going to know about it. So it's just to point out why there's that discrepancy, perhaps.
Thank you. Councillor Dean, please.
Yeah, I take Councillor White's point there, but I don't think that's really a licensing issue necessarily. I think a lot of the noise that's been commented on social media hasn't even been anywhere near a licensed premise. It's been, on Porth Cressor or Little Porth, whatever. My overwhelming urge is to take out the CIA just because it's unnecessary. Because every time there's a license application, we will have this conversation. We will talk about whether it'll have a negative impact on Q-Town or wherever the license is being applied for. So I just think the CIA, for us, is unnecessary because, like Councillor Sim says, we're not LA, we're not the Strip in Las Vegas or whatever. We're a small little village in the middle of the ocean, and I don't think it's a major issue myself. So, yes, I think I can propose them. I think I've already proposed the recommendations, but I'll propose them again if I haven't.
Okay.
Chair.
But propose that we take the CIA out of the policy.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes.
I just wonder if at this stage, because the paper before members, as you will see, the recommendations can't just be passed as drafted, because recommendation 2 actually asks you to actually do something, have a debate and come to a determination. So I have actually drafted recommendations to accommodate any determination members would have been minded to make. I could share that on my screen now so all members could see that. Would that be helpful?
Yes, it would. Thank you, Leah, except that I have a couple of members still wishing to speak. So
Yep, that's fine. I'll come in when you want me to. I just thought I'd raise that at this point.
Thank you. Councillor Legg, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just to check, because it was mentioned that you take each application on its own merits anyway. As a layperson might expect a CIA, would suggest that you kind of look at the bigger picture, but my understanding was when doing licensing that you do look at the bigger picture anyway and regardless. So would it reassure the public to know that we do look at the bigger picture? Can I just check that's the case? Thank you.
So when you have an application, so say you have the Dog and Duck want to have later hours and they apply for a license. In a normal case, it would be for people objecting to show that that would cause an issue that would impact negatively on the licensing objectives, one or more. With a cumulative impact area, that flips. So it's up to the applicant to show they won't have an impact. So if someone objects and says there's going to be crime and disorder, there's going to be noise, etc., it would then be for the applicant to show that they would have a positive impact. And they'd almost be required to do that in their application with a CIZ or CI, cumulative impact area. So it doesn't really change anything in respect of an application, because you would expect an applicant for any licensed premises, particularly on the Isles of Scilly, to be looking at things like particularly public nuisance, because as one of the councillors said, it's a very quiet place. So any noise is going to have a potentially negative impact on the licensing objectives. So what a cumulative impact area would just make it a lot more difficult to show. It's difficult for someone to prove they're not going to have any impact. But without evidence, it's quite difficult to put in place a cumulative impact. So the places that have cumulative impact areas in Cornwall, places like Newquay, Falmouth, Penzance, places that historically have had issues with crime and disorder and public nuisance. There have been efforts made to have them in other towns due to issues that have arisen, but they've not been brought in those towns. Cambourne being one example. So you would always look at the bigger picture in terms of any application, but really, it's each application on its merits. So you can't look with a normal application, you can't look at the area in the same way that you can with a cumulative impact zone. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. It's a particularly odd area of law and of licensing, in that it kind of flips the requirements on their head a little bit, but then it also requires evidence. So it sort of says it's for the applicant to show that they're not going to have a negative impact, which is really difficult in these cases. How can you show you won't have any negative impact on noise, in particular, particularly something like that? However, it still needs evidence. So if someone comes forward and says they're going to have a negative impact and it's in the cumulative impact area, in order to make a decision to refuse that application, you still need evidence. So you can't just say it's in a cumulative impact area, so therefore we're going to refuse it. So it doesn't take away that. I think some people, having done a lot of hearings where you've got cumulative impact areas, like Newquay, when it first came in, was a big one. People still wanted to open premises in Newquay, but we had the cumulative impact area. People just thought they could object and say it's in a cumulative impact area, so the council should refuse it. They brought this in, so they should refuse it now. But it's not that simple. You still need the evidence. So on an application on the Isles of Scilly, it would be for the applicant to show there would be no impact, but the person objecting would still have to an extent, show that there's going to be that negative impact. So it is a very sort of difficult area, really. And it's always difficult. As I said previously to members, we've given a number of different training sessions to Cornwall councillors, because it is quite a difficult area. And colleagues of mine, it's a difficult area. If I could just leave it at that. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Roger, please.
Just to come back on Councillor White's point, there has in the past been quite a lot of effort put into Fire Safer Scilly, and I know the police, to encourage the public to complain through the right channels. That's been put into print and it sits on websites as well. So they have been encouraged to complain, yet they still don't.
Thank you. Councillor Sims, please.
I was listening carefully to Mark there, and it did strike me that something like the CIA, in some places, is a very good idea and very useful, but if it's not actually particularly useful, it just makes things massively complicated and a complete waste of time and just complicates everything. And also it will give people who are inclined to complain a level of false entitlement, which is just going to cause grief for the council because we're not listening to them and we're not obeying our policies, etc. So I think that the reasons for us not to have a CIA are mounting as we continue to talk.
Okay, thank you very much. It seems to me that at the present time, councillors possibly minded that we do not have a CIA following Tim's recommendation. Could we see your wording, please, Leah, on the screen, which would change the second recommendation, I think, and then I'll ask for a formal proposer and seconder for that and see if anyone has any objection and wants to propose anything else.
Can you see that, members?
It's quite small, but I think we can see it unless you can enlarge it slightly.
I will try. Does that enlarge it?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
I will scroll down if you need me to. So the first recommendation remains the same. So that is dealing with the governance issue. So that, for the avoidance of doubt, LC3 in the terms of reference for the council's licensing committee is suspended to enable the statement of licensing policy to be considered and approved by full council at this meeting without a recommendation from its licensing committee. And then recommendations 2 and 3 deal with the CIA with alternative wording. So if there is a member, I think it's been proposed that the CIA, that you do not remain of the same opinion. Obviously the bold wording, so I'll leave that to members because one of you will have to propose whether you do or do not. The bold wording is the alternative to facilitate any member's decision.
Okay, thank you very much. So, bearing that in mind, Councillor Dean, are you happy to propose
Yeah,
that?
so I'll propose that we
do not
remain of the same
Yeah.
opinion, and we determine to remove it from the statement of licensing policy.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Roger. So before I put that to the vote, does anybody else have anything else that they wish to propose? Councillor Mumford.
I would just, I don't want to propose anything, but I think that it's about time we all had licensing training again, which we haven't had for some time.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll arrange that. Thank you. So,
Chair, can you also move on to recommendation 3 and pass those two together because they sit together?
Yes, well, I was meaning all of it actually, which
Okay,
obviously
thank you.
means that so we'd be failed to show that we're going for in number 3. Is that your intention?
Yeah.
Councillor Dean, thank you. And Councillor Roger confirms that. Thank you. And number 4, that's as is, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So we have a proposer and seconder for that.
Sorry to interrupt, but you've got sufficient or insufficient there on number 3 as well. So you need to put insufficient.
So it'd be insufficient. Yes. Yeah. And that's.
Do you want me to read it all out in full with the wording as proposed?
I think we can see it.
Fine.
Thank you, Leah. And we've agreed that in number 2, we're going to be do not remain rather than do remain. And that in item 3, it's going to be failed to show rather than showed. And further down in item 3, it's going to be insufficient evidence rather than sufficient evidence.
Yeah, and then just in 2, it's to remove it also from the statement of licensing policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that confirmation and the proposal from Councillor Dean and Councillor Rogers seconding, all those in favour, please, of the 4 recommendations. That's carried unanimous. Thank you very much. I'm sorry it was a bit difficult, but it was a difficult subject, but thank you. Thank you, Andy, for your paper. We move on now to the council calendar, which is item 13 on the agenda. Again, in your hands, Andy.
Thank you, Chairman. I think I'm not quite sure where to begin with this.
Can I help you a little bit?
Well, would that be all right? Yeah.
Well, I think we've had quite a lot of correspondence about this, and you obviously have a council calendar in your pack, but in view of comments from councillors around that, Andy has come up with some various versions of it, and his recommendation for us to consider is his recommendation 3, which is in front of you. So I would use that as a starting point, if that's all right, Andy. And members, would you like to have any questions on that? Or, I mean, you're perfectly entitled to choose any and propose any of the options, either the original paper or any of the options Andy Thomas has given you. So is there somebody who'd like to speak on that, please? Councillor Guy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just on the recommendation paper here, all options are to remain with the evening meetings in June and July. Just to clarify, that is what is recommended in all the papers we've got in front of us. Is that correct?
That's what's currently
Thank you. I just wanted clarification on that. Thank you.
Yeah, there's no, I've not been given any reasons to take them out at this point, put it that way.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to go with version 3. That seems sensible. The only thing I did want to talk about, just following on from what you've said, my colleagues will have noted that the proposed calendar on page 365, or the replacement, gives some full council dates as evening times. However, our chief executive states in the report that evening private return boating would cost in the region of £150, which will increase when prices rise due to inflation and rising fuel costs. The pay policy voted on earlier states all inter-island travel must, where possible, be on scheduled boats and meetings arranged around these times. There are further financial implications in the report for officers who are not based on Scilly, and states evening meeting also incurs significant additional travel costs and expenses in addition to accommodation, as return transport rather than day returns are nearly twice as expensive, plus the ability to book accommodation is limited. Given the current difficult financial situation, spending should be first and foremost in our minds. The council should be, and should be seen to be, making savings wherever possible. Furthermore, on page 366, 5 councillors specified a preference for morning meetings, with one off-island councillor suggesting 10:45 start would fit with the off-island scheduled voting. Only 2 councillors requested evening meetings and 1 saying anytime meetings suited. So with the increased costs for evening meetings and the majority desire for morning times, can full council dates noted on the table on 365, on page 365, be amended to 10:30, or even better, all full council dates changed to 10:45 to allow for our off-island colleagues to access scheduled voting, thus making a further saving for the council.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mumford, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think that Thursdays is a much better day for council meetings, because in the winter the off-islanders will be able to use the shopping boat to come to the meetings, which would avoid any specials being done. I believe that the special now for St Martin's is going to be £80 each way, which is a lot of money for the St Martin councillor to come down. I'm not really bothered about the evening meetings, but it would save money, because they will have to have specials for the evening meetings in June and July. So probably it would be better to have daytime meetings.
Thank you.
So I would go with version 4.
Thank you. Councillor Sims?
If there are, if there are no evening meetings in June and July, then I won't be able to attend the meetings. And also, I don't think I'll be able to attend morning meetings at 10:45 throughout the summer months. It's the worst possible time for me. I can make a half hour between 10:30 and 11, but I certainly 10:45 is a waste of time coming. So I'm just saying, like, we had a licensing meeting not that long ago. It was in Cora, and that was in March. So I was just saying that some of these meetings I will not be able to attend. I'm not going to try and influence members' opinion about when we should have them. Obviously, all times are problematic in themselves. But I think the evening meetings, it's only 2 a year, and I think it's worth keeping them going.
Thank you. Councillor Roger, please.
Just a question for the Chief Executive. Has there been any further lobbying or movement on government with regards to going back to the COVID situation where we could hold council meetings remotely and still vote? Because that would solve a lot of our issues.
I defer to the monitoring officer because there is government are working on legislation, but I'm not sure at what stage it is at the moment.
Leah, would you come in, please?
Thank you. So as members will remember, we, at the beginning of, gosh, it seems a long time ago now, but at the beginning of last year, did feed into the public consultation that government ran in respect of looking at remote meetings again. We have had things come through the LGA, lawyers in local government, that government are minded to reintroduce the legislation, but we definitely have not had a timescale in that respect yet. Obviously, as soon as I hear, I will be engaging with members on that because we would need to make changes to our constitution to facilitate it. But I take Councillor Rogers' point because it definitely impacts on a council of our nature more than it does on others.
Thank you. Councillor Guy, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just totally agree with what Councillor Sims said. I mean, what Councillor Blackwell said in the first report is totally correct. However, there are 16 elected members of this council and only 7 bothered to respond of when they would prefer the meetings. That's a point to look at. Something I did say to the Chief Exec as Chair of the IFCA, we have a boat, and I did propose that we could look into using our boat with our 2 members of crew at no cost to the council to get off-island members down. We did have a conversation and never explored it any further. That would be an option for the only 2 meetings of the year. And just to reiterate, no disrespect to any off-island councillor, here we are again at full council with 2 off-islanders, 2 unable to make it, and it's the middle of or start of summer. So I just want to put that, I would prefer the 2 evening meetings, and there's only 2 a year. So I'll say no more.
Thank you. Councillor White, please.
Just to sort of speak for myself for the voting for the evening meetings, with the timing as it is, I can get the last scheduled vote over. It would have to be a special back unless there's a supper vote going over, in which case I would be able to perhaps jump on that as well. So depending on what the association are doing, I could potentially still make use of votes with a scheduled fare, or it would be one special, so it would bring the cost down. It'd still be more expensive, but it wouldn't necessarily be £160 to attend. So nearly half the cost there.
Thank you. Well, I would say from the chair that I do believe we've got to be as cost effective as Councillor Blackwell pointed out as we can be. We cannot waste any money, and we have got, with evening meetings, we have got people that sometimes have to come over from the mainland to present and so on to us, and it is quite a considerable expense. So I think when you make your decision, councillors, you need to bear that in mind, please. I'm sympathetic with Councillor Guy and Councillor Sims, but if we haven't got the money to expend on it, then you know, we have to take that into full consideration. Councillor Legg, please.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I would like to thank the officer very much for the work in producing the 4 different versions of the calendar. As Councillor White said, with respect to the boating costs for evening meetings in the summer, I have often been able to use scheduled boats to get to the meeting, and it's usually only a special for the return, and even sometimes I'm able to use a scheduled boat for the return as well. It would be good to explore the use of the IFCA boat as well for evening meetings, but I'm minded that those added costs of having others attending meetings is really the larger part of that cost. And it would have been good to see some numbers as part of this report. I would support Councillor Mumford in recommending version 4, where all meetings are on a Thursday, and would like to hear some more debate about the times of meetings.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nixon, please.
Thank you, Chair. As Councillor Guy's mentioned, and Councillor just mentioned it again about the IFCA vote, that's definitely worth looking into for evening meetings. I'd just like to clarify as well, as far as attendance at meetings, although there is the added cost, it's only actually the elected members who have to be present in the chamber. Presenting officers could still dial in remotely to present their items, other than obviously the on-site people here who need to be here to actually run the meeting. So that would mitigate some of the costs. Can I just clarify, what's the deadline for setting the dates? It would be worth pursuing the IFCA option before we confirm anything if possible.
Can I just mention, I know Councillor Guy said there is no cost in using the IFCA boat, but we do have to pay for crew and fuel. So it's not a nil cost, there is a cost also associated with that, just for clarification.
Sorry, you're going to answer Councillor Nixon, Andy, please.
Sorry, the question was, is there a date by which we have to agree these meetings for the year ahead?
Yes.
Most other councils do this quite early, actually, so we're already quite late, and in terms of, no, the answer is no, in effect, but best practice is to get it done ASAP, so at least people can put bookings in calendars and things.
Thank you. Councillor Guy, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I appreciate what Nicola Stinson said. However, the IFCA is autonomous, and it would come out of the IFCA budget, not. So there is a cost, but it would work itself out if they give their time up to do that run. Because their hours are flexible, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay. If people don't think it's the right way forward, that's fine, but you've got the situation where you have St Mary's councillors that won't be able to make certain meetings and off-islanders that potentially will. I mean, and at maybe a bit of a less cost, but it's down to members to decide, so that if the status quo would like all morning meetings, so be it.
Okay. Councillor Dean, please.
I don't really care myself whether it's in the daytime or the evening, because it seems an impossible choice that we either choose 2 St Mary's councillors to be able to attend or 4 off-island councillors to be able to attend. I don't want to make that decision. So I think the basis for any decision should be on the cost for officers overtime, presumably, and travel and accommodation expenses. And if that's going to be substantial, then I think we should do the daytime meetings when it's more cost effective, is my view. But I'll go with whatever everyone else wants.
Thank you. Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. Actually, I'm happy with version 3 or version 4. I don't mind if it's Thursday. And on the evening meetings, I just think we should lead by example. If we're expecting our employees to use scheduled boats and arrange their meeting around those times, we should too. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor White, please.
I was just wondering, sort of out of curiosity, if we do have a figure for the additional cost for the evening meetings above and beyond just sort of the potential boating cost. Do we have a ballpark figure for that at all? No. Okay.
No. is the answer.
No.
Okay. Chief Executive.
Again, no, we don't in particular, because it would also be variable depending on items that are on the agenda and who's coming across. The people that are defined under our policy as hybrid, it's not addressing those, because they usually will combine the week they're on the island anyway. But it is other people that do come occasionally and have to present papers, and where we have shared officers with Cornwall.
Okay, thank you. I think at the moment we have Councillor Mumford proposing version 4. Is that correct?
Yes, so the only discussion is the 2 evening ones.
Yes. Are you proposing that with the 1800 hour for the evening meetings, or all at 10:45, please?
I'd like all at 10:45, but because it's going to save money, unless the off-islanders think that they would be able to get down. Councillor Legg seems to think he might be able to, and of course we're missing 2 councillors. I'll propose it with the 2 evening ones.
You're proposing it with the two?
As it stands, yes, at the moment.
Right. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Guy. Are there any other proposals, please? Sorry, Leah, would you like to come in?
Yeah, I just want to come in because the only version that's been published is the one in the report. So for anybody watching the meeting, they will not know what versions 3 or 4 are. So if version 4 was it, that's just been proposed, I think it would be useful for Andy to just explain the differences between version 4 and the one that's in the paper.
Okay, we'll do that, but we've got other questions again. So I think until we actually get to the point of proposing something, we'll just take the other questions.
Thank you.
Vice Chair, Joel, thank you.
My head's spinning. So I think, Councillor Mumford, you proposed version 4, which we can clarify with the evening meetings. But based on the conversation in the last 5 minutes, I'm happy to propose version 4 based on the cost efficiencies with 10:45 meetings.
I'll go with that one then. I'll go with yours, Joel, because it's a saving of money.
Okay.
And I think that's what we've got to think about now.
Yeah. Councillor Legg.
It isn't just the full council meetings that have evening meetings. IFCA, we're also setting the times of the IFCA meetings, and
That's down to the chairman.
And I believe that it would be good to keep the 2 IFCA meetings that are scheduled for 6 o'clock, 1800. It would be good to keep them in the evenings. Due to the nature of the people who attend those meetings, it would have a significant impact. So it's only the full council meetings that are changing to 10:45.
Right, okay, that's clear. Are you happy with that, Vice Chair?
This is fun, isn't it? Yeah, I'm happy to propose version 4 with full council at 10:45, and IFCA can sit outside that.
I'm sure the chairman of the IFCA will be
I'll
arranging
second that one.
Pretty good, thank you.
Thank you.
I will second Councillor Williams's proposal.
Fine. So, Councillor Sims.
Yeah, I'd just like to make it a little bit more complicated. No, it's just that I did mention earlier on, you've got the governments and scrutiny committees here, and they're all going to be at 10:45 or 10:30. But what we tend to do with those is we get an email round robin to make sure there's going to be core. And I think the last licensing wasn't, and occasionally they go from morning to afternoon. I'm just sort of making a point that these are actually not really set in stone. This is basically what we would like to do, as opposed to what we definitely are going to do. And I'm sure that some of the smaller committee meetings may well get moved from the morning to the afternoon, depending what people can and cannot do.
Okay, thank you. So, have you got your light on again? No, thank you. Andy Thomas, could you please, just for the public's interest, just explain where we are now, please.
So we have 4 versions. There is a version that is printed in the agenda pack that is known as version 1. Version 2 is the same as that one, except the May 2027 council has been moved to Thursday, and the start times of the meetings have been moved to 10:45 a.m. instead of 10:30 a.m., which they are currently. Version 3 is where, in addition to 10:45 a.m. starts, I have also moved all the meetings held in the what we call the boating winter months of November, December, January, February, March to a Thursday, whereas the summer boating months, there is a share of Tuesdays and Thursdays, which are kind of more traditional council days, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Version 4 is where, in addition to the 10:45 a.m. starts, I have put all the meetings of council and committees on a Thursday.
Thank you very much indeed. Is everybody clear on that? Leah, are you happy with that?
I am. I just think, dependent on how the debate continues and proposals move, there will need to be some wording for a proposal that actually means something, because you won't be able to just move the proposal at recommendation 2 as drafted.
Okay, so do you want me to take a vote now, or do we need to do the wording first?
I just think let's just be clear on who is proposing and seconding what first, and we can come up with some wording which encapsulates that.
I think I'm right in saying that Vice Chair Councillor Williams is proposing and Councillor Mumford is seconding Andrew Thomas's version 4, which is basically all council meetings to be at 10:45 in the morning on a Thursday, and that the IFCA meetings will remain as they are in the evening. And I think that's what we're voting on, unless someone wishes to correct me. Councillor Mumford.
I'm just going to point something out, that in version 4, the dates are all wrong for the Thursdays. So that needs to be sorted.
Yes. Okay,
will be a Thursday.
We'll correct that, but it will be the Thursday nearest to the date that's in the... Councillor Sims, please.
Just a quick point, because this is getting way too complicated. This is all entirely advisory. It's not statutory. It's not really council policy. Chair of any committee can change the times of the committee meeting at any point during the year. So I should think we just take this as this is what we'd like to do, as opposed to worrying about it in a huge amount of detail, really. Because it doesn't have to be. It's not legislation.
Thank you.
Chair.
Monitoring officer.
So you very helpfully summarised that, thank you. So the proposal is that version 4, which sets out that all council meetings to be held at 10:45 a.m. in the morning on a Thursday, and all IFCA meetings to remain as set out, including the evening meetings. Maybe if we just add on delegated authority be given to Andy's role, democratic lead, to finalise the schedule and to circulate it to all members and publish it on the website, so that things like dates, etc., can be finalised.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you. Councillor Mumford.
My apologies. I was looking at the wrong year.
Okay, all right. So I think we're there now, hopefully. I've got a proposer and a seconder for what's been put before you. All those in favour, please. That's 2 abstentions or 2 against. Councillor Sims, you're against. Councillor Guy.
And apologies, we probably won't be at their meetings, Chairman.
Okay. Are you against or abstaining? Yes, against. So that's 2 against and all other members for, so that's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Andy, and I'm sorry it's been a hassle. Especially sorry to our planning officer to have to wait through all this, but we will now go back to item 8 on our agenda, which is the first of our planning applications. In your hands, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. So the first application before you relates to the Carnguaval Health and Wellbeing Centre and seeks full planning permission for a relatively modest single-storey linked extension to create a belonging and inclusion hub. The hub will provide dedicated space for family support, inclusion services, SEND-related provision and supervised study facilities for young people, consolidating functions already delivered by the council services at this site. So before turning to the main elements of the report, I'd just like to update members on one point raised following publication, specifically regarding the absence of a formal consultation response from Cornwall Fire and Rescue, particularly in relation to whether the proposed extension would remain accessible and safe for emergency service vehicles. So for emergency access and vehicle manoeuvring, these matters fall under two distinct regimes. Highways, they would only comment and we would only consult them where the proposal affects the public highway itself. For example, if visibility, access, parking or turning into the road is altered. And in this case, the proposal does not affect the highway, so highways have confirmed it's outside their remit. Fire and emergency vehicle access inside the site is governed by the building regulations, specifically Part B5, not planning. So we do, however, consult Cornwall Fire and Rescue as it helps flag any issues which could be revealed post-planning. And this includes whether the fire appliances can enter the site, turn or reach the building. In the instance, our fire and rescue colleagues have now reviewed the plans and have confirmed they are acceptable for their purposes. So planning doesn't duplicate these technical assessments, but it ensures that the correct specialist bodies have been consulted. And on this application, fire colleagues have confirmed that there are no issues arising. So just turning to the merits of the proposal, it sits within the existing operational campus at Carnguaval. It's proportionate in scale and has been designed to integrate with the existing building without harm to the conservation area or the wider national landscape. There have been no objections have been received and statutory consultees are either supportive or have had no concerns. And all technical matters, including ecology, drainage, biodiversity, net gain and construction management can be satisfactorily addressed through the proposed conditions. So accordingly, the recommendation is that members approve planning application P25113, subject to the conditions set out in Appendix A, and delegate authority to make any necessary refinements to those conditions as per the recommendation. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Well, in the absence of our lead member of planning, Councillor Sims, please.
I'm happy to approve the recommendations. The only issue I have with it is I find the name of the unit incredibly irritating. It's cuddly, but it doesn't actually tell you what it is. I mean, it's almost like a comfortable axle. It could be, couldn't it? But never mind. But I'm happy to make the propose a recommendation.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder for the recommendation, please? Councillor Dean.
Yeah, I'm happy to second it. I just wanted to highlight the, it's in the report anyway, but the issues with it being so close to the school and, pedestrian access around the site and making sure it's safe. That's all in there, but just wanted to highlight that, but happy to second the proposals.
Thank you very much. Don't see any other lights on, so we have a proposal and a seconder for the adoption of this planning application, the approval of it. All those in favour, please. That's carried unanimous. Thank you very much. The second planning application, item 9 on our agenda, is also in your hands, Lisa. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So the next item relates to a property called Penolva on Tresco and concerns an application to discharge an historic Section 52 obligation that dates from 1985. This obligation restricts occupation of the property to agricultural workers associated with the former Borough Farm enterprise. In this case, you're not considering the planning merits, but making a legal determination, and the statutory test is quite narrow. So the authority must determine whether the obligation continues to serve a useful planning purpose or whether it has become obsolete or unnecessary in light of current circumstances. This is not a planning application for development, and it therefore the usual local plan and MPPF considerations don't apply. So the application details submitted confirm that the agricultural enterprise at Borough Farm has ceased, and as such the dwelling is no longer used for agricultural purposes. The need that originally justified the restriction has fallen away. Evidence has been submitted showing that the last tenancy was surrendered in 1999 and that no agricultural work has been housed at Penolva since the farming operation ended in 2019. Importantly, discharging the obligation does not release an open market dwelling. The property remains within the Tresco Estates managed housing pool. So taking these factors together, the report concludes that the restriction no longer secures any identified planning benefit and is considered obsolete. So the recommendation before members, therefore, is to delegate the authority to approve the discharge of the Section 52, subject to the completion of the required deed of discharge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Councillor Sims, please.
I'm happy to propose the recommendation. It is somewhat silly to have somewhere which has got reserved accommodation for people it cannot employ. So it makes absolute sense. And I'm sure that Tresco, if it does need agricultural workers, will find somewhere else to put them. So I'm happy to propose the recommendation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Legg, please.
Happy to second the recommendation for the same reasons.
Thank you. So I have a proposer and seconder to approve the application. All those in favour, please. That's passed unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Lisa. Right, we come now to item 10 on our agenda, the last item on our agenda, which is the Conservation Area Appraisal and Management Plan, which is also in your hands, Lisa. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So this item presents the final Isles of Scilly Conservation Area Appraisal and Management Plan for approval and publication as non-statutory planning guidance. The Conservation Area Appraisal and Management Plan represents the first full appraisal of the island's historic, archaeological, landscape and built character, together with an outline management plan. A consultation draft was published between late November 2025 and early January 2026, and we received a range of representations which have been fully reviewed, and the final version before you today incorporates the factual corrections, the clarification and management improvements identified in the Cornwall Archaeological Unit's finalisation note. It strengthens, so what I would say is it strengthens our ability to manage change positively within the conservation area by identifying its special interest, setting out key pressures and vulnerabilities, and providing a framework for consistent and defensible decision making. If it's approved today, it will be used immediately as material planning consideration in planning applications at both pre-app and determination stage, and it will also form a key part of the evidence base for the new local plan and will directly inform the scoping of future heritage-related work, including potential statutory documents such as a heritage supplementary plan and a heritage-led design code document. It will inform a review of the Article 4 directions, and on that point, which also relates to last month's project initiation document, which was approved by members, I can confirm that we have now secured some funding from MHCLG to progress the local plan under the new local plan regulations, which came into effect this week. So the recommendation before members is to approve the publication of the Conservation Area Appraisal and Management Plan, and its use in planning decision making as non-statutory local planning guidance, and note both the consultation process and it will inform future heritage work as part of the local plan review. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nixon, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Lisa. And my only real comment is, I mean, it's a really decent, weighty report, isn't it? Could you pass on our thanks as well to the authors of the Conservation Area Appraisal and Management Plan? It's a decent document, and it'd actually be quite nice to see if we could get copies of this provided to the school and the library, because there's a lot of information there that kids and visitors and residents will we're probably quite interested in. That said, I'd just like to propose all the recommendations as written.
Thank you very much. Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. I'd like to second the report.
Thank you. Councillor Sims.
I was going to second it, but I would like to echo Councillor Nixon's. It's a really interesting read. I mean, possibly for the public's perspective, a little bit of editing would be useful. But it's a very yeah. It's one of my favourite weighty reports we've had.
Thank you very much indeed. So we have a proposer and a seconder for the adoption of this report and approval and the other two recommendations. All those in favour, please. That's carried unanimous. Thank you very much indeed, and thank you very much, Lisa, for all your work and your other people that contributed. Thank you very much, and with that, I close the meeting. Thank you.